In a kingdom from the past, the rulers implemented a strategy to govern the people more effectively. They divided the population into smaller groups, intending to maintain control and prevent unity against perceived injustices. These divisions were based on people's appearances, beliefs, and nationalities, fostering the notion that one group was superior to the others. Strangely, individuals hardly knew one another and lacked any interactions, creating a breeding ground for resentment and animosity. One group was singled out as the primary enemy, diverting the population's attention while the rulers amassed wealth and secured control over valuable resources. Whenever questions arose about the rulers' actions, they triggered conflicts and shifted blame to weaker groups, thus deflecting attention from their own doings. This manipulation made the divisions in society even worse, letting the rulers stay in power without anyone challenging them. As time passed, the rulers became more and more unfair and overconfident, thinking they could do whatever they wanted. The rulers went to great lengths, even creating segregated, ghetto-like areas for specific groups, pushing them to society's margins. They rendered these communities so powerless that they ruthlessly murdered their children in front of their families, including infants who had no comprehension of the world, labeling them as their greatest foes. The king and his advisors lived in fear that one of these oppressed groups might rise to challenge their rule. As a result, they oppressed this group further and resorted to the drastic measure of killing male babies born every 2 years. Within these marginalized neighborhoods, there were families deeply connected to Allah and upholding moral values. The king's soldiers conducted regular raids, seeking to eliminate newborn baby boys. One fateful day, as they approached a particular family's home, the desperate parents attempted to conceal their infant, trembling with fear. The mother, clutching her newborn son, could feel his tiny heart racing. She understood that any sound her child made could be his last. In an extraordinary moment of inspiration from Allah, she decided to take a daring step. As the soldiers drew nearer, her baby's cries intensified. Driven by desperation, she nursed him to keep him quiet. As she did so, the baby's cries diminished, and the soldiers passed their home without discovering the hidden infant. The mother's courage and resourcefulness saved her child's life that day. Yet, she was aware of the ongoing danger and pondered how to protect her son from future incursions. Unsure of what to do, she received inspiration from Allah. She placed her baby in a fruit basket and set it adrift in the river. While this action might have appeared irrational to others, Allah instilled tranquility in her heart and the belief that she would be reunited with her child. Despite her unwavering trust in Allah after placing her baby in the basket, the mother didn't neglect taking precautions. To ensure her child's safety, she instructed her little daughter to follow the basket's course and monitor its whereabouts. She had raised her daughter so well that detailed instructions were unnecessary. She had instilled the confidence to respond appropriately in various situations. The young girl began following the basket in the middle of the river, resembling someone playing by the riverbank. Eventually, the basket reached the king's palace. At that moment, the king's wife was in the palace garden with her servants. The king's wife was exceptionally compassionate and insightful, proving that even in the direst circumstances, the most exquisite roses could bloom. She noticed the basket and the child inside, instructing her servants to bring the child to her. Upon uncovering the baby's face, they realized he was not one of them. The child resembled the group they had scorned. When the soldiers saw the baby, they wanted to end his life, but the king's wife prevented them. She immediately developed a fondness for the child and wished to keep him close. The queen decided to speak with her husband to persuade him. She was a knowledgeable woman with a deep understanding of her husband. She informed him that she had found a baby by the river, but she had kept the child away from him as she was unsure of the king's reaction, fearing any improper move could endanger the baby. Since the news didn't disturb the king, she revealed the baby's face directly, capturing the king's attention with the child's exceptional beauty. The king's smile upon seeing the baby was unmistakable. The queen suggested.
Let's keep this baby in the palace with us.
The king agreed, and the queen noticed he couldn't take his eyes off the baby. She went further, proposing,
Perhaps we could adopt the baby.
This proposal left everyone present astonished, but the king accepted it. Confusion and resentment began to permeate the minds and hearts of those present. The baby, hailing from the group they routinely oppressed, whose infants they slaughtered, despised, radicalized, and marginalized, was now residing in their palace. Furthermore, he was destined to become their prince. When the baby began crying due to hunger, the queen ordered her servants to find wet nurses. However, this effort proved vain because the baby refused to drink any wet nurse's milk. Observing the baby's heightened distress, the queen dispatched her servants outside the palace to seek out women who had recently given birth. Meanwhile, outside the palace, the baby's sister, a little girl, waited anxiously as she yearned to learn her brother's fate. She wandered around the servants, seemingly playing, all the while eavesdropping on their conversations. When she overheard them discussing the search for a wet nurse, she spoke about her family as though speaking of strangers, saying,
I know a woman who cares for babies and acts as a wet nurse. She takes excellent care of them. I can take you to her if you want.
It was only this woman whose milk the baby drank among all the wet nurses brought from outside. Thus, Alice's promise to the baby's mother was fulfilled, and she was reunited with her lost child on the same day. Thanks to two insightful women raised in two hostile communities and a young girl whose wisdom exceeded her years, the seeds of change and the end of oppression began to take root. From this story, we can understand that to dismantle oppression, one must be well educated and understand the rules of those in power during that era. Otherwise, any movement or initiative you create will remain aimless. It may bring more suffering to the community rather than peace. Furthermore, we should also understand that even among the cruelest of societies, there can be individuals with noble hearts, much like the king's wife. We should not make sweeping generalizations about people, but should instead get to know each person individually before passing judgment. We should not belittle or elevate people solely based on the communities they belong to. And, of course, those who build their existence on oppression and become even more cruel to protect it are taking steps to bring their own end without even realizing it. No oppression lasts forever, and one day, the oppressors are remembered as they deserve.
If you enjoy it, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.